This is the Astrology Show podcast with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your astrology and tarot for the week starting October 14. Your tarot this week can be decoded at my website. Aries, the Chariot. Taurus, the Three of Wands. Gemini, the Two of Pentacles. Cancer, the Four of Wands. Leo, the Five of Cups. Virgo, the Seven of Pentacles. Libra, the Eight of Wands. Scorpio, the Star. Sagittarius, the King of Cups. Capricorn, the Empress. Aquarius, the Knight of Pentacles. And Pisces, the Ace of Wands. Do you have a stellium in Libra? 4, 5, 6 or more factors in Libra means that you have a duet or a duel centre stage this week. This may be your marriage or a love rival. The South Node, Sun, Juno and Diana are all in Libra, also in a stellium, so the scales must be balanced. Famous birthdays this week include Flea, who is 62 on October 16, Gary Kemp, who is 65 the same day, Nico would have been 86 on October 16, David St Hubbins is 77 on October 17, and Carl Wallinger would have been 67 on October 19. Happy birthday if it's your birthday. The children or teenagers or the grown-up children in your life are so powerful and empowering. Babies born this week are all about fairness, equality, balance and justice. They will end up in partnerships which show that when they are older. Fated connections this week are Virgo and Pisces with money. There is karma between you two from January 2025. Aries, you are being given an opportunity not possible in 12 years, Aries. It concerns your short journeys, your internet use, your media interests and connections. Cupido is here in your chart with Jupiter, an ancient symbol of solutions, hope, growth and optimism. So it's local and it's online. Cupido is about who or what it's easy to love, even if it's just for a few months. And Jupiter is with you until June 2025. So there is ample time to do something big, especially with digital or across the map. In November and December, a promotion, a resignation, a retirement, a redundancy, a new appointment or fresh project is in your world, which may tally with the trip, the website, or the media project concerned. The reshuffle that you're going to experience with rights, roles, and responsibilities in those 2 months ahead, November and December, might just be the tipping point. So putting these two trances together, there is a huge game of musical chairs happening with your career, your alternative career, your academic career, or your unpaid work. You are used to this by now. You've been seeing it again and again since the year 2008 with Pluto in Capricorn. But this time is the last time. It's decisive. And in the game of musical chairs, in November and December, you have to find your chair. This may be a separate or connected issue with what is happening, so hopefully with the internet and the media in your life. Maybe you can see two parallel paths, or you have already joined the dots and made the connection. Whatever is happening for you in your personal chart, if you have anything in Gemini there natally, then this is a fantastic period of potential. It's up to you to say yes to the person, the possibility or the project or the place, which you know is so promising. You can see how it's going to take off. You've been here watching it or maybe getting a little bit involved, but you only have until June 2025 to take full advantage. Aries, the other thing about this transit in Gemini is your brother, sister, and or cousin. And this is also where there is a huge solution and a big opportunity. The third house of your chart is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury, in turn, associated with Gemini, the heavenly twins. So although this may not actually be a twin, your brother, sister, or cousin is your counterpoint, if you like, and has been there ever since you were born. And here we go again. At around the age of 11, 12, 13, there were possibilities there, big opportunities or open doors with this person which now repeat in time now that you're both older. So there's quite a lot going on at the moment, whether it's siblings and cousins, the media and the internet, or whether you're looking at November, December in terms of your overall career, your academic career, or your unpaid work. The thing to remember about this end game for Pluto, if you like, is that it really is the end game. There will be a sign off in December with Ceres also in the same sign, but the endless issues about power and control that you have been dealing with for such a long time are virtually at an end. Taurus, Ops and Psyche in Aquarius suggest a dramatic new phase for you professionally is ahead. This may also be your academic career or your unpaid vocation. 2025 is not going to be like any other year, as is already clear to you. Yet at the same time, something that resembles a solution is arriving. You can call this a practical way out or a brilliant strategy. A timely note of relief and release in the future is shown as Ops moves through your sector of career and calling. These transits are not just personal to you, they are affecting the charts of so many Taurus politicians who bowed out of leadership in recent years. And so it's quite right to call this political in nature. That's what it is. It is about playing the game of chess with other people. The power and control issues are just on the horizon, and they'll be here for quite some time. You saw a bit of it in 23 and 24, and now you are going forward into 25 with the sense that this is going to be a whole new era in your life. The 10th house of your chart, ruled by Aquarius, which is where we see Pluto about to land, is about status and success, the system, the hierarchy, and the top of the mountain. It's about social mountaineering, and it's also about where you stand on the mountain, if you want to stay there or if you want to get off. All of this is going to become more intense, and you're probably aware of this, relentlessly so in the next few weeks. Yet you will sign off from it in January or February 2025 as you go into the new Aquarius phase in your horoscope in your life. So although it's too early to call, and although you're going through so much preemptive thinking about this, you're a pretty solid character by nature. You have your values nailed on. You know what you'll sell out for and what or who you refuse to sell out for. And that's also going to influence your decisions about your CV. This may be about salary, redundancy, a payoff, a bonus, or something else more complicated. But this week gives you plenty of time to mull over your options with Ops and Psyche in Aquarius in your chart. Gemini. Well, sometimes you have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, rather like a blazing light in a long tunnel taking you backwards. Reversing is normal when Ceres and Pluto are retrograde in your sector of joint banking, earning and owning, financially, economically, with your house or your apartment, your shares, your business, and or your charity. You're now being taken backwards in time in order to go forwards. This has been a really long time coming. You have put up with some of the most difficult years on record since 2008, thanks to the relentless transits of Pluto in Capricorn, which rules his money, her money, our money, and my money, and of course the house, apartment, or the business interests. What's happening at the moment is quite unusual for you because you are going through a backwards tunnel at the same time that you're seeing forwards, probably in your calendar or diary, with a new beginning just after Christmas in January or February 2025. What you are gathering from all of this is that you have earned all the power that you now possess. You have earned the sense of influence or effectiveness that is so much under your control, and you have done it the hard way. It was not just Pluto in Capricorn over the last few years that did this to you with money or property, business or charity. It was also a number of other transits which trained you the hard way in how to be self-controlled and self-disciplined. The payoff for this willpower is evident to you within weeks, But at the moment, what you have to do is tie up the loose ends of unresolved issues or anything which has not yet achieved closure. And the reason for this is that Pluto appears to be going backwards. In your horoscope, this is notorious for creating situations where you rethink, rewrite, reappraise, or even renege. And Pluto retrograde is also well known in astrology for creating situations which send you way back to the distant past, where you have to reckon up or settle up. At the moment, this seems like yet another bridge to cross, but you'll be amazed at how different next year feels, Gemini. All of these issues about you having the upper hand or the other person having the upper hand have been with you for such a long time, but you can already see the way that they are dispersing in your life. And from the second half of November, either because of the paperwork or just an agreement, a verbal agreement, you can bid farewell to this. Ultimately, this transit for you has been about discovering how powerful you can be, and that has rested with your own willpower. You have, in fact, shown other people that it is he, she, or they who are playing the game that you are winning in the most subtle way. Cancer, your past, present, or potential partner is at the fast beating heart of some long overdue solutions, improvements, and breakthroughs in November and December. This week is about a little bit more reckoning up of what or who matters most to you before you make these sign-off decisions, or they do. This week, Pluto and Ceres continue to move retrograde through your sector of duets and duels. Things have been so intense for so long that you may have forgotten what life can feel like if things actually move at a normal pace instead of presenting constant challenges to change, but going backwards. What we have here ahead of you is a green light in November after a series of rather stuck situations. This is quite important for those of you who have children because you're also going into the Scorpio cycles, which are very much about sons and daughters or any stepchildren or godchildren. So decisions are about to roll. Even if you don't have children or it's not center in your thinking, it looks as though the decisions that you make over the next few weeks will have a long-term impact on the next generation in your world. At the moment, the issue is mostly about the other person or the other side. This transit is well known in astrology. It has been with you since 2008, and you are slowly but surely signing off. On this transit, through your opposite sign of Capricorn, you have to look at the other side of the scales, the other side of the trapeze if you're in the circus, or the other side of the seesaw if you're in a playground. It's very much about a balancing act. Balancing acts are very common on this transit, and so is the law. So you may be involved with a barrister, a lawyer, or a judge and jury. That's not unusual. Even if you feel that the issue about balance and fairness, equilibrium, harmony, and symmetry is not so official, it's more emotional or psychological, it's also true that you are almost at the end, and the clues have been there for quite a while. What we have here is a long sign-off from Pluto and Ceres in Capricorn, and little by little you have been seeing a way to reverse the situation and to bring the steering wheel around to your side of the road. This can only augur well for the future, and in fact, you will be amazed at the rate of change that happens. Pluto goes from this zone of your chart in the second half of November, and for the first time since 2008, you will experience life without the constant and relentless questions about who or what is in control, Cancer, with a sign-off decision by December 7. Then you go into this brand new Capricorn season just after Christmas. So New Year is going to feel very new indeed. You may as well get exactly what you want. And so this week is about looking at the scales and how you want to balance them. Leo, Ceres and Pluto are still pulling backwards this week in your sixth house of daily routine, regular lifestyle, usual workload, necessary housework, duty and service, health, mental health, and well-being. And so you are also being taken backwards through time. A situation that you put up with for far too long can now be timed with a two-step decision in November, then December. Pluto cycles have presented as people, organisations, and situations which tend to take over, whether you are trying to take care of your health or whether you are just trying to do your job. This may explain what happened with your well-being or your workload in the last year or two, as Pluto transits challenge you to meet change with greater change. This sign-off in the heavens is so momentous in terms of astrology that it will take you some time to get used to once it's actually happened. So this week is best served by looking ahead and thinking, well, how would I like to have my lifestyle, health, well-being and workload next year? The fact is, without these cycles there, primarily Pluto, you no longer have to worry about things just repeating. So for some of you, this means a new job. In other cases, it's a completely new approach to your health and your well-being. And there are also factors here to do with your general lifestyle at home and your sense of service or duty to other people. This transit going through your sixth house may be picking up your personal chart if you have anything in Virgo. If you do, then by the end of next year, 2025, you will have completed which can only be called a revolution, a radical change in terms of how you live and how you work and how you look after yourself. Even if you don't have anything in Virgo or you don't know, it's also true that this cycle is notorious for making you face the reality of serving other people. You have to serve yourself first. If you're not serving your mental or physical health as you should, you are not a machine, Leo, and you simply cannot keep going. You actually have to make yourself number one on this transit and then attend to the simple fact that others also need you to work for them too on some level. All of this is in the balance this week, but you'll be amazed at how many clues and signs appear before you sign off and make your way into a completely different year from the second half of November. Virgo. We now come to a real turning point in the road with the world of relationships, babies, infants, school children, teenagers, or younger people as a whole. You have weathered so much in the last few years with all these transits affecting a younger generation that you may not even be aware of just how intense it really was. You have put up with a lot in the name of whatever or whomever, but you are not going to have to do that in 2025. Coming out of a transit like this, with Pluto exiting Capricorn in November, takes a few weeks to get used to because the signs and clues are already there. Whatever or whomever you felt so completely controlled by may take you some time to acknowledge or admit to, but it's quite true if you step back from your life that over the last few years, courtship, the bedroom, or the younger generation, as children or young adults, has made you perhaps slightly off track in terms of you being a Virgo who is normally quite meticulous about the details of your life. You may have gone east or west, north or south, when all you ever really wanted to do was stick with the compass. This is now altering, and you've had plenty of signs about that, Virgo. What you do this week is stack up the odds and be a realist about what you've already achieved. In terms of feeling as if your hands are on the reins, well, it's getting used to that, really. That's the story of this week. Understanding that you do have the power and the self-control, but you now also have a rocket booster behind you, so that what was normally just about you trying to do this in terms of your partner, your children, and so on, is now very much about you and the world backing you. That's very new, and it's partly to do with the cycles that you're going through now. What is required here, according to your astrology chart, is a two-step decision, one in the second half of November and another in the first half of December, which will enable you to go into the post-Christmas period just after Boxing Day with a completely different agenda for next year. You now have the tools and the resources that you need to feel in control of what or whom was so out of control for such a long time. And as I've said, it's about stepping back and understanding and admitting to yourself that it was really happening. The future does look very solid and very different to what you've been through, and you'll see clues this week. Libra. These Pluto and Ceres retrogrades in Capricorn let you know that things will be changing pretty dramatically over the next few weeks with a family member, your house, your apartment, town or country, and perhaps the household. Maybe a combination of some of those things on that list. As this week draws to a close, you'll see the reason for why it's also delayed. Libra, you have put up with so much for so long that this must feel like some kind of final tunnel that you have to navigate. And now there's a traffic jam or a stuck train on the road. It will be some time before you know for sure that everything is turning around. Yet it will happen as Pluto exits Capricorn once and for all, and the second half of November shows you. The situation, organisation, or person which repeatedly raised so many issues for you about your own control and power will be history from the second half of November. A Pluto exit out of a sign takes as much getting used to after the fact as it does in the few weeks that precede it, and that's why life at the moment seems so unusual for you. Because you are being shown a way to actually feel as if you have your hands on the reins. You are also making decisions about your own power in the game, and you are understanding the fact that you no longer have to let things happen to you or people happen to you. You have what it takes to firmly get this under your grip. And you have a really good reason to do that with your home, your hometown, your homeland, your family, or your household, because you've been put through the mill so many times since 2008. You are no longer prepared to just put up with it or see what happens, and that's a classic sign that this transit is almost over. What happens next year will be so different for you in terms of the mood and the atmosphere and the feeling with what you would call your people or your place. There may also be practical reasons for that, Libra. So a high percentage of people born under your sign will move or relocate, see the family reshuffled, roles, rights and responsibilities within the household also reshuffled. Pluto is an old symbol of power and power shift, and so it is about demotion, promotion, and also sideways moves. It is about departures. It is about people accepting compromises. And it looks, according to your solar chart, as if you have something like this coming along just before December 7, when you are looking forward to the post-Christmas period as the beginning of the end of something that you really never accepted. It will, in fact, be the beginning of the beginning. Scorpio. The sight of Ceres and your ruler Pluto together in the practical sign of Capricorn turns everything around for you online within weeks, but also with multimedia, education, and communication as a whole. This is a polite way of pushing it, Scorpio. These have not really been issues, but back in 2018 and 2019, they certainly were tremendous burdens to carry around thanks to your Saturn cycles. And although you have done your level best to get to where you belong in terms of your power online and with the media, it's also true that 2025 is your first year without essential ongoing questions about who holds the reins. Now, you may have been dealing with this through something like Twitter or Facebook, or just in terms of your basic communication at work, being heard, being responded to, replied to, understood, listened to, and maybe there's been an issue for some of you about translation as well. Basically, this transit through your third house, which is ruled by Mercury and Gemini, the twins, is always about getting the message across. It has been very difficult for you to do this because of other people's issues about being in control or having the upper hand or having the power. What you're seeing at the moment is a sea change, and it would have begun 2 or 3 months ago. This may have been a revelation to you that you did not simply have to accept every single current that swept you along. In fact, you have been given a way to control this thing. and other people born under your sign are finding it too. How you choose to handle this, whether it is through the internet or through a more personal way of being heard and read properly, is entirely a personal choice that comes around in the second half of November and the first half of December. And it may be that you are already looking at your calendar or diary in terms of life just after Boxing Day or after New Year. All of this would fit with the astrology, Scorpio, which is telling you that now is the time to begin slowly letting old ways of managing go. So, in order to get through everything that you've been through with the web and also with being heard or read, you have had to resort to ways of coping and managing that will no longer be required next year. All of this may seem very new and quite hard to believe, but it's showing itself this week with clues and signs about the future. What was is no longer, and next year you have every right to get your message across without constantly having to deal with the politics of other people, large organisations, or the internet or media itself. There will be an extraordinary moment in the second half of November when you realise how much has changed. Sagittarius. Your ruling planet Jupiter has long been associated with acorns which grow oak trees. The very small, over time, becoming something so much bigger. Now, normally in a year when Jupiter is associated with duets, partnerships, and double acts in your life, we would say that it's pure luck. But there is more than this. It is about not just good fortune, but also your good judgment. The person on the other end of the scales for you, whether it's personal or professional, is the right person at the right time, and you have until the middle of 2025 to make the most of it. This week we have transits involving Jupiter and also Cupido, a double act in your chart, which we've not seen for 12 years. The key to the other person or the other side is that they are expansive for you. Your horizons broaden, perhaps to another country or culture, that can happen, or towards just more knowledge in general. Jupiter is a gas giant in astronomy, and in astrology, he's associated with everything that gets larger. So you are quite right to have a bigger vision of what's possible for you between now and the middle of 2025 with the other person, be it personal or professional, be it a long-standing marriage that you feel is growing, or whether this is a very new double act that you have struck up in the last few months. You probably want to know where it's all going. The interesting thing about this transit is that it goes for years. So the actual growth and expansion might stop halfway through next year, but after that, the revolution arrives. Uranus is going to move into Gemini, again in the same chart sector which rules your other half or the other side. And radical changes that you have not experienced in your lifetime will come about from the second half of next year, taking you well past 2030. So the last thing that anybody expected to happen is usually the first thing that happens with Uranus in your opposite sign of Gemini, in your seventh house of relationships, marriage, and partnership. So even if you have been single all your life, you may marry the last person anybody ever thought that you would get together with. It's on that level. And if there is something about a marriage or a business partnership which is restricting you or that you believe is entrapment on some level, then you have to really get real about what's going on, because this combination of Jupiter and then Uranus is notorious for making you decide the things that you need to decide. This week is a bit of a clue to all of that. And if you're single or you're looking for a work partner, then the stage is very much set between now and the middle of next year to find somebody who balances your scales. Capricorn, as you move towards the end of October, you will find nature's timing device, the transits of astrology, working for you with long-standing situations which have been such a big ask for you in image terms. This has really been about your passage through the world for years, your face online, your name, how you present, package and profile yourself, and how the internet does that for you as well as other people. You are ruled by Saturn, the planet associated with great staying power. Yet you have been tested for a very long time by one transit in Capricorn after another since 2008 and have become so used to life's obstacle course with yourself over the last few years that you may have forgotten what normality actually was. This transit is a 3-step for you. Firstly, the second half of November, then the first half of December, and then the first half of January next year. So it does in fact chime with your birthday. Whatever you have banked on or counted on in terms of how other people see you superficially, particularly online, has been a trip of its own volition. You have been on that road for a very long time, and yet strangely, from the second half of November, you no longer have to be there. This will take some getting used to. In fact, the letting go of the baggage from life between 2008 and earlier in 2024 will take some time. You have seen it all in terms of the amount of control you did or did not have about how you were seen by people who'd never met you. You have also been dealing with issues about your personal appearance, for example, which carried a great deal more weight than you may ever have expected before 2008. What's happening over the next few weeks will remind you that you are a real live ticking person behind the image that other people see or the hologram online. And this whole cycle is about getting back to basics and understanding that that was then and this is now. 2025 is going to be completely different. You will no longer have to carry such a heavy burden in terms of how you are projected or reviewed by other people and by the technology. And the first signs are there this week. What you have in mind for yourself next year should be liberating and should allow you to accept the way that you look or appear, the way that your reputation is, for example, in a way that allows you to be far more free and independent. Some choices will come this week that enable you to do just that. Aquarius. For the last few years, Aquarius, you have been living with Pluto in Capricorn, just one sign behind you. So matters behind the scenes, behind closed doors, or behind your usual social media profile have been really challenging. That is putting it mildly. This has been about your spirit, your psyche, or your soul. And I'm sure that you have a smile on your face almost when you remember the isolation of 2020 as COVID-19 descended. That was 4 years ago, but unforgettable, and it made a huge difference to the way that things are, even now, today, as it happened when you were going through the transit that they call Pluto in your solar 12th house. If you're one of those Aquarians who have Pisces factors in your birth chart, then it was a double whammy and still is, because being by yourself and dealing with the person that you are when nobody else is around is a huge story ongoing. The most important thing about this week is knowing that it comes to an end. From the second half of November, this Pluto cycle stops, and from the first half of December, a deal or compromise with yourself will be made, or with your confidant, who may be your priest or your therapist or your psychic. It depends on who you've been talking to. From about December 7, it becomes clear that second half of the 20s will be completely different for you in terms of your interior self. For some of you, this has been about God or not God. And for others, it has been about science. It really depends on your personal preferences. For some of you, it's been about mediumship or about hypnosis or distance healing. This kind of transit is isolating and also isolated because nobody else can really get very close to it. It has also been a really big ask for you because it has been going on for such a long time. But this week will show you what you need to do in the second half of November to really feel the reins in your hands and to understand that you actually do have control. And just as you go past Boxing Day into the new year of 2025, Aquarius, you will also understand that you can let things go from the past. You can release memories, patterns, and habits that were very much part of ancient history for you, even if they only were there 2 or 3 years ago. Thinking about all this week helps you get on track. Pisces. The pattern in your chart that picks up speed in November will make the biggest difference to how you feel about your friends, old and new, your networks, and what friendship is supposed to be anyway. This week is a holding pattern, but that also gives you time to think about your friends, any frenemies, the group, the team, the club, the band, the political party, society, or association. The end of Pluto and Ceres in Capricorn suggests that most of the unanswered questions you have left over from 2018, 2019 can actually be settled. You need to take a step back in order to understand how deep these things run, and you will, as you need to get some distance between yourself and the past, according to your chart. This cycle that you have been through is associated with power and control, but also past life debts and credits. So there was more to the group than first appeared, and probably more to the friendship as well. As a Pisces, you are intuitive and may already know this. What's happening at the moment is you unraveling the past so that you can draw a line under it in the second half of November. Understanding everything that you've been through since 2008 has empowered you is really important. It's easy to think about the moments in your history since then on this cycle when you felt as if you didn't have control or as if you were taken over by something or someone greater than yourself. And yet the reality is that you powered on through and now you are where you are. You also have the choice to make big decisions about how it's going to be next year with friends and groups. And it may be social media, or it may be somebody that you grew up with. It may be an organised group like a trade union, or it may be an informal group of old friends. All of this stuff may seem unimportant to other people, but to you, it's been tremendously important. And you are now at a point in your year where you can begin to slowly release the way that you used to manage. Whether it was treating particular friends or ex-friends in a certain way, or managing group situations with a particular attitude, it won't be necessary beyond the second half of November. In fact, as you detox from the recent past, Pisces, you will find that friends and groups have a completely different spin on them in 2025. That may be the point at which you wish to rejoin, or you may just want to let bygones be bygones, but the signs are all there this week. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.